Alright guys, so today we're talking about an AlloyWorks radiator and electric fan setup, and I'm going to show you guys step by step how I like to install these and tell you some of the information you should take into consideration before you order them. The first thing you should know is that down below is a 5% off code. It's Aries Garage, all caps, you get 5% off on top of whatever deals they are currently running. So be sure you use that. It helps support the channel by letting them know that, hey, people are watching these videos. Anyways, this one can handle up to 850 horsepower, 1700 CFMs, and takes 12.7 amps to run these. And the reason the amps matter is if you're running a stock alternator with tons of gauges and all sorts of accessories, you're probably going to end up killing that alternator. So take that into consideration. This application should be just fine. I'm not running anything aftermarket that is going to draw down on it. If anything, half the gauges in the truck don't work, so I'm totally fine there. So just take that information into consideration and just do with it what you will. All right, the first stuff you guys should need to know is what wires you're going to connect. Okay, I'm going to show you guys in a minute later on in the video how I like to connect these. But anyways, is the wires you're going to connect, because I'm sure some of you guys are going to watch all this, is white and your white and red wire from the relay that comes with the electric fan go to 12-volt source. You can run these off an accessory wire under the dash or in the fuse panel, however you want it. I like to run these straight to the back. I've ran them like that on my Nova. I haven't had any drainage issues or anything like that whatsoever. Your blue wire is the 12-volt wire, positive wire for your electric fan. You're going to wire it off from one radiator to the other, depending order that's going to depend on where you have the relay placed. Your ground wire is going to go to 3 different places. Your ground wire here is going to go to the grounds on the fan and your thermostat switch. The thermostat switch with these, I believe, is like a 190-degree thermostat switch. And what that means is when your engine or your coolant hits 190 degrees, it tells the fans to kick on. And whenever it gets underneath that temperature, it tells the fans to turn off. You can go online and you can order different ones that turn on and off at different temperatures. But this is the one that's provided with the kit. So that's where your wires are going to be ran to. It comes with some connectors here and a fuse and all that stuff, but I like to go to Walmart and I pick up their $10 wire connector set. That way I have extra connectors on hand in case I decide to wire something up a little bit differently. And then I went to Lowe's and I picked up some 14 gauge wire. This is 25 feet of it. It costs like $4 or $6, I think, like that, somewhere in there. And then I have zip ties, I have wire strippers, and I'm gonna have a socket set and stuff like that. A basic socket set you can get this job done with without an issue. You're gonna need some wrenches as well. Anyways, while I'm in there, I'm going to go ahead and replace my thermostat housing. This one on this truck is leaking. But anyway, I believe that's all the information you guys need to know. And keep in mind, I'm always here if you guys need help with this process. If I forgot something, drop a comment, let me know your question, or you can message me on Instagram. A lot of people message me on Instagram, and I'm always here to help you guys out, no matter what it is. I will always learn something so that way I can help you guys out. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and jump into removing this radiator. Alright guys, so the first step is to take a look around your engine bay and figure out what you're getting yourself into. For me, this is a typical small block Chevy. I know that right here is the thermostat switch for the dummy light. So when the engine's overheat, it throws the dummy light, and I'm going to go ahead and remove that, and that's where I'm going to put my thermostat switch, which means I'm going to go ahead and install my relay right here on this hole that's already there. I'll use a self-tapping screw or a nut and bolt, something like that. And also on the lower side of the lower driver side of your radiator right here, it's going to be kind of hard to see for you guys, but there's a drain there, and that's what you're going to use to drain your radiator. And then on this square body or on this 85 C10, on each side of the shroud right here right here there are a few different nuts there or screws, and so that's how you're going to remove your shroud. But in order to do that, you need to take off this upper radiator hose. Alright, and while this is finishing up its draining, what you're going to do is you're going to take off this hose clamp here and disconnect your upper radiator hose. And then over here on this side, you typically don't have any other connections on the driver's side. Depending on your engine, you might, but most of the time I've never really seen any on the driver's side. Typically you just have the upper radiator hose. Over here, it looks like we have this hose right here, looks like it goes to the heater core. And then on the sides, on the passenger side right here, and you have one down here again at the bottom. Those are your transmission coolant lines. Again, some engines don't have that. Some don't have a transmission cooler built into the radiator, but in this application it does. And then on top of that, you're going to have a lower radiator hose. I know it's kind of hard to see, so essentially you're just going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 connections. You also have your overflow hose here, so you're gonna have 6 connections. Those are gonna be really simple and really easy to do. All right, guys, so I went ahead and took off this upper shroud. It was just a few bolts here and here, and it was super easy. Fun fact, these flex fans, that's what they're called, they don't work. If anything, they make situations worse. You need to have a clutch fan if you're gonna run a fan blade on your engine. I mean, you guys are watching this video most likely because you're upgrading, so that doesn't really matter, but run a clutch fan. Don't run one of these stinking flex fans. They're trash. This one is demolished. I have no clue what happened. But yeah, so anyway, I went ahead and took that off. And this way you guys can see a little bit better. These transmission lines, just a slight bit better. This sits on the bottom of the radiator, so the bottom half can't come out yet. But all that is left is this side of the radiator. So yeah, I'm not going to bore you guys. I know half the people watching this are wanting direct results and to see how to do this. So anyway, go ahead and at this point, once you have this much open, you can go ahead and easily get to your lower radiator heads and your transmission coolant lines. All right, and we have the radiator out. I did go ahead and take the fan blades off, and then I went ahead and threw the bolts back in there. I let the spacer in there because the bolts were long, so I went ahead and just threw the bolts back in there. That way the balancer stays on. But look how bad these fan blades are. They are awful, guys. But anyway, so never run flex fans. That's what those are called. If you're going to run a fan, if all this is too much for you and you decide to just keep your fan, make sure you're running a clutch fan, guys. Don't worry about those flex fans. Anyway, so we're going to grab the new radiator and sit it in there and see how well it fits. I know it's going to be a little bit off because this radiator is technically for an earlier model C10, but it's going to work hopefully the same. The only difference, again, should just be size. And real quick, just to let you guys know, in the bottom, on each corner of these radiators, are these rubber bushings, and a lot of people will get one and they'll assume that they have the wrong radiator because it's not fitting, when sometimes it's these bushings that are bad that change the height. They can't change the height awfully, but it can lift it up probably close to at least half an inch or so. But anyway, so keep that in mind. If you're noticing yours isn't fitting right, maybe you need new bushings. Alright, so that is definitely shorter than what the stock one is, but again, that is completely my fault, and that is not the fault of AlloyWorks. I'm definitely going to make this one work for now, though, and we'll see what we can do. I've been struggling with this for a little while. I ordered the wrong radiator on purpose. It was meant for a different build. You guys will not have to worry about this, and I can't stress that enough. But my radiator, my lower radiator and upper radiator inlets were different sizes, but I made it work. Anyways, now is the correct time, or would be the best time, to add water and test for leaks, but drain it afterwards. Don't leave just pure water in there. It will freeze in the wintertime and it will bust your engine and all sorts of stuff. It's not fun. So don't leave the water in there if you're going to use just water. I added about 1 gallon of water and didn't notice any leaks. So I am going to go ahead and add coolant. Make sure you guys do your research, run the right coolant. It does matter depending on Chevy, Ford, Dodge, JDM, stuff like that. So just be sure to check out your owner's manual or something and figure out what coolant you need to run. So I have my new radiator in, as you guys can see here. I didn't show a whole lot of it because every vehicle is completely different. If you guys need help on a specific vehicle, drop a comment down below and I will do my best to research it and help you guys out where I can. Just keep in mind everything's different on every vehicle. Some radiators don't have transmission cooler lines. Some will just have coolant hoses. So it just completely varies. So just drain your radiator, disconnect anything you see running to it, and it's really as simple as that. I know that doesn't sound like a lot of help, but it really is. And then just remove anything that's above it that could stop you from pulling it out. Anyways, on to installing the relay. So important things to keep in mind here is wiring. Where are you going to be running all of your wires? For me, my battery's all the way over here, but my temperature sending unit is all the way down here. It's kind of hard to see. I'll show you guys a little bit better in a second. So I need to keep in mind how I'm going to run everything and where I'm going to run it to. So most likely I will end up placing this somewhere in this area. I've also thought about installing it somewhere here would be a good spot. I'm not quite for sure yet. I think I'm probably going to go with the fender. That way it's easily accessible, easier to see. I might relocate it later on. And that's one thing that's really cool about this is you guys can customize this however you want. All that's important is where it connects to. You know, as long as you have the connections in the right spot. And as bad as it sounds, you don't even have to connect these with all these fancy connectors I'm going to use. How you connect them is going to be completely up to you and how well you want everything to look. The connectors, the type of connectors you guys use, that's completely, everyone has personal preferences. Some people prefer not to use connectors and they just solder stuff, which is totally fine. I will be using some different connectors here and there, and I'll show them to you guys as I go along. But, you know, when you try to research stuff like this, it is really hard because everyone just has a different preference. So just keep that in mind. So anyways, once you have it where you want it, you know, if you notice along the top of here are a few different holes that are already there. This one's already threaded. There's not really a whole lot I have to pick from, but if I wanted to, I could go ahead and use those and not have to drill a hole. So I might look into doing that real quick. I'll keep you guys updated as I go though. When it comes to small blocks, and that comes from small block Ford, Chevys, and quite a few different engines out there, you have multiple locations that you can pick from for your temperature sending unit for the fans to tell them when to kick on. You know, some people don't even run them; they just run them on switches. That's up to you how you want to go about doing it. You know, you can get extra thermostat housings and put the sensor there. You can put it right here. If you're not running a heater core, you can run it on that side. This side has one as well. You can totally pick. For this vehicle, I don't have any, those aren't an option. So what I'll be doing is removing the temperature sending unit for the dummy light and throwing it in right there. That works for me on this application. Where you decide to route it, again, everything's completely up to you, from how well you want to wire things up, the type of connections you use, all this is completely up to you. Also, to run my relay or to place the relay is what I will be using is a self-tapping screw. I have it in here already, and I drilled a really small hole just to kind of help it out right here. It's this really small one, and then I'll be placing it and just like that, and then I'll be using my drill to send it in the rest of the way. Again, location is completely up to you guys, so me telling you guys where to place it just isn't going to work out. Find somewhere that works for you. If you need help, if you have any questions, again, just ask below, but this is where I'm going to pick for this vehicle and for the type of things I will be doing. This just works for my application. All right, guys, so I have my temperature sensor right here. It is installed. Is what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to be routing, I'm gonna cut this piece off and I'm gonna switch it over to one of my connectors. And so I'm gonna make this Y off and run to my sensor and over to the black ground wires coming off the fans. So there'll be 3 connections there, and then it'll be, that part will be done, and then I just need to run the blue wire to the fans and the white and red wire over to the battery. But yeah, so I have the relay in place here with the self-tapping screw. You can change the angle of it as well, so I didn't tighten it all the way down because I like to be able to move it depending on what I'm needing. So there's that as well. But yeah, so that is all that is left at this point, is just connect these 4 wires, and I'll show you guys how to do it, or how do I use these connectors and which connectors I like to use as I do this. So yeah, so again, we're just gonna cut this off real quick, and yeah, I'll show you guys as soon as I'm done. So we're gonna be using this little connector here to split this off into 3 connections. So as we're gonna do, as you can see here, this side has 2 openings, and this side has 2, but this one right here is clogged off, and you can't, or blocked off is the word, and you can't put anything in there. So you have 1 wire go in here and you have 2 come out. So essentially it'll look, so after you strip your wires, which you can use, again, you can use just about anything to strip wires. I've used nail clippers before, I've used a knife. You can use literally anything that works for the job. So you just put these 2 ends in there, and then you do the same thing here. And then you have your other one come in on the side that's not blocked off. And then you just push down this little metal clamp and you cap it off. And then you have 1 wire splitting into 2. Now again, some people tell you not to use these. These work great for low voltage situations. Sorry, I had to adjust the GoPro. So they work great for low voltage situations. In my opinion, I wouldn't go using them for anything high voltage at all. But again, it's all personal preference. You have people that tell you that they don't belong in any scenario whatsoever. This is just my preference, and I've had no issues with it. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, so we're gonna wire this off and run this to the sensor. All right, so we have our 1 and 2 wire here. So we wide it off, and we have this wire running over here to our sensor. And I did go ahead and bend this tab up just slightly, a little bit at an angle. That way it's not touching the header. Now is what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut off these tabs as well on these black wires, and we're gonna wire it off again with one of these. At this end, we'll have, we'll have one of those 3 ways on here with those two black wires off the fans going in to that one. So it's going to be the same connection. Just make sure you cut off those ends. That way you can do it. Again, you can do this many different ways. You can use as many different connectors as you want in different places. This is just how I prefer to do it. Some of these connectors are also included with the radiator. It's just I already have my own kit, so I'm just going to use those. But anyways, yeah. So again, you're just going to cut this off and add one of these 3 ways again, or I guess 2-way, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so that's what we're on to next. All right, and we have our Y here from the relay going to the temperature sensor right here. Sorry, it's kind of hard. All right, so we have our Y right here leading off, going to our temperature sensor, and then we have it right here where it's wired off and connected to both ground wires. So now we're going to do the same thing you just did with your ground wire, but with the blue wire. The only difference is this. This blue wire only has to go to these 2 blue wires on the fans. It doesn't have to wire off and connect to anything else. So you only need one of these 2-way wires. That part is done. Everything is cleaned up and out of the way. Let me give you guys a little bit more light here. Okay, so they're zip tied, as you can see. I just used 2 zip ties, one here, one there. But yeah, again, so ground wire is done. Fans are connected there. So now all we have to do is run. I went ahead, I accidentally cut this piece thinking it was the ground for whatever reason, so ignore that, that'll be fixed. We're gonna run both of these wires with our extra wire that I talked about in the beginning of this video. Again, it's just 14 gauge wire, nothing special. This was like $4 at Lowe's. This can be done on the very cheap, but yet very professionally. So keep that in mind. The better it looks, the better you're gonna feel. So yeah, so all we have to do is run those 2 wires over to here. Routing method, I'm not quite for sure how I'm gonna do this yet. I might run it along here and use some zip ties along the way, but I'm not quite for sure yet. This is a little bit, so on my Nova, I did everything on the battery side of the vehicle. That wasn't quite an option here. So I'm not quite for sure how to route this wire, but I will figure it out and I will keep you guys updated, that's for sure. But yeah, so I'm gonna figure this out and show you guys what I'm gonna do. All right guys, let me show you guys the finished result, but keep in mind something real quick. This wire has been spooled up on this spool for Lord knows how long at this point. So keep that in mind. That is why this does not look super great at this moment. I also need to go through and clip these zip ties. And this tension, you don't want these to be pulled super tight. Right now they're pulled a little bit tighter than I would like. But as you guys can see, there's a lot of slack in this line here. And this is also the way I decided to route it all the way through. And I went back behind the battery and then over to my power. Keep in mind 2 things here. First off, as this heats up in heat cycles, this wire will get more slack in it and it will straighten up and it won't look as bad. Secondly, what is it? I have enough gap between the frame and or body, whatever you want to call it, and these wires that they won't sit there and rub and end up shorting out or anything. And the good news is that in case that does happen, this is a fusible link connection. It even comes with a fuse in the kit. So even if it does decide to do that, it is a fuse system and it will blow the fuse and it won't do any damage to the vehicle or anything of the sort. So yeah. So this will end up looking better, and you may not have this issue whatsoever in your scenario. Again, this isn't really an issue. This just doesn't look all that great at this moment. However you decide to route your wires, make it look as best as possible, and the least connections, like the least connectors you have to use, the better. There's less to go wrong in that scenario, so just keep that in mind. It is currently 12:30 a.m. and this vehicle does not have an exhaust system. I am going to have to start it up to move it out. but I will not be keeping it running for a long period of time to let this thing heat up. So I will show you guys tomorrow the finished result, and I will also show you how I decided to run the wires in my Nova. So I will catch you guys in the morning. All right, I want to start off by saying if you use the code AriesGarage, all caps, no space, you can get a discount off your order. I think it's like 5%, and it lets AlloyWorks know that you guys are watching my videos and you guys are seeing that I'm marketing their stuff. It helps me out, it helps. This way I can keep giving back to you guys and stuff like that. Anyways, so I can't start any of my vehicles because my starters are going out, and it sucks. The starter on my truck went out the same night I finished the radiator install. I had been having issues with it. I knew it was going to happen, but it happened sooner than I wanted it to. The Nova, I had issues with them grenading themselves and just literally blowing up, but that didn't happen this time. The solenoid went out, and I've been battling getting a new one ordered in. It's been just a headache. But anyways, so I can't start any of my vehicles, but I promise this wiring works. I just really want to get this video out for you guys. So tell you what, if you guys have issues with anything that I showed you guys in this video, message me and I'll do my best to help you where I can. I can't promise I have the answers to everything, but I do a lot of research to help people when they message me. So again, if you need help, message me. I'll have a link to the radiator that's in my Nova and the radiator for my 85 square body down below, along with the discount code. So be sure to check that stuff out. And yeah, the discount code works for any of the products on their website. But yeah, so I'm gonna let you guys go. Good luck, and let me know if you need any help.